to watch the video later on YouTube, thanks, Dennis, that will be whenever time you see it, so it may not be your afternoon. We are here as a group of computer users and computer experts of various levels, talking once a month about how we use our computers and what goals we have that we successfully do using open source software, free software in other terminology, that does not require you to give a company control over your computer. It allows you to choose what you want to run, to have experts examine the software that you install, and to make your life perhaps a little more interesting, but definitely more your experience than the experience that a company wants you to have with your hardware. You're not renting the software. You're not buying the software. You are using the software of your choice. And that is the big deal for most of us who are in this group. Thank you for joining us. NatickFOSS is the name of our group, and we love doing this. So much that we actually had a recent meeting or gathering at Framingham State University, where people came to look at science on State Street. And although that's the last item on our agenda today, there were a few of the current people there with me. Anybody have a reaction about what happened and what we enjoyed about it?
Yeah.
Got a lot of feedback there for a moment.
Sorry, it's because one had the sound at one show and the other one had the microphone. I was interested to see that the bulk of the booths there were either to do with astronomy or to do with climate change. So, and there were a lot of them were quite interesting.
So the other shows were good. Our table was pretty busy, and we had a lot of different things to demonstrate. And I, for one, got a lot of good feedback from visitors. Some of them know all about it. One of them has offered me a tour of the MathWorks building near our home on the Constituent Rail Trail. So we'll walk over and do that next week sometime, I hope.
Oh, that sounds.
And I think a number of people may be tuning in later, if not tuning in live, as a result of that visit. It was good.
Want to particularly thank Dennis Payne for having his arcade machine present. One of the items on today's agenda is for a Raspberry Pi version of his machine, though not built by him or his father. So we will briefly, at least, get a chance to look back at that experience. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So let me get that set up. We can then examine there we go. The agenda for May the 2nd, 2024. There is a fair bit of news to look at from various vendors. At the top of the list, we see Ubuntu 24.04, codenamed Noble Numbat, and it is available for download. The people who already have Ubuntu versions 23.10 from last October can expect to find an upgrade path that's ready for them. People like me who use a version that is the long-term support version are generally recommended to wait until the first update version that comes along somewhere around August. So I will be seeing the update opportunity for 24.04.1 when that becomes available. Anybody have experience with Noble Numbat? Obviously, I do not, because my long-term support is the way I go.
I can comment a little on it. I've tried it briefly. I've tried some of its flavors, as it is said, going down the tree from it. And I've decided to leave the main one alone, at least until 0.1 for use, but I'm keeping an eye on it for interesting new ideas. It's got quite a few of them. And I'll be talking later about some of the other ones, and I'll hit that too. But it's a big step forward in several directions all at once.
Thank you, Dick. Any other intrepid adventurers who have tried it? We have a bacon sound coming out of.
I don't think that's from Dick's computer. I think that's from the Algott's share, because that's when it started for us. And his microphone was off when Jerry was posting that comment.
I'm not hearing it now as I.
No, it's definitely from your machine, Jill and Dick.
One way or another, we'll move forward successfully, I'm sure.
For what it's worth, our microphone was off until I just switched it on. I'm about to switch it back, and we're hearing the noise anyway.
So you're hearing it now because of my share, perhaps? But it's not happening to the rest of us for some reason. I don't know why.
We hear it only when you or Dick turn on your microphone.
All right. The next item is actually for us to hear from Dick, who does have some flavors that he wants to explore with us. The Linux Mint, Ubuntu Unity, and the Lumiri, which doesn't have its link set up properly in my agenda here, but we can get to it if he wants to explore that. So, Dick, I'll let you come aboard.
Hi, am I? Hi. And also, right above it, I'll mention Bobby Borisov's report on the big one that we were just talking about. His report, I thought, was a pretty good one. I've got a collection of reports on it from early on, and half of them are angry. They were very unhappy that Ubuntu took a wrong turn. Not all agreed on which wrong turn. And a lot of them are enthusiastic. They're wonderful new features. He got to describe almost everything that changed very nicely, I think. And in the process, the place that link will lead you to is my webpage, Money is Not Wealth, which talks about Linux and lots of other things. and it goes right to my interpretation of his article. I'm just flagging a few sentences. And very simply, he's taking the middle road. He's saying there's a lot of good things in there, and I'll tell you about them. But how did it almost double in size for one of the 3 new levels they're offering, which is called the minimal level, and has less functions in it than the one that was smaller? How did it get so big so quickly? Some of us may not care, but it weighs in at about 9 gigabytes now. That's a lot more than the other ones I'll be talking about. I was worried about that, and I was worried about a few technical items, which are still getting ironed out, but I expect they'll be better in days, not weeks. Not sure. But anyway, you can read his article. First, my quick take for the points that got me to pay attention, and then the rest of the article, which I think is a good balanced one. And that and these ones below it, which should all see where it says Ubuntu flavors to consider. The next batch should be within that. That should be an intro to the next batch. And they're not all the ones to consider, but they're the ones that I've been considering hard and could tell you something about. They didn't get larger. They're as fast, as full, and as confident as they were before, plus some new tricks. I've been, for years, using and distributing to others Ubuntu Unity, and it released. You may remember when we were first talking about it years ago, its main author over in India was 10 years old. Amazing. His English is great, his computing is great, and he's now getting kind of elderly. He's about 14, I believe. Hi, Rudra, and doing good work. But because he was having trouble tracking the Ubuntu that was having trouble getting all hung together cleanly without conflicts, I got interested in Linux Mint. And in fact, I'm running it today. I'd say for general purpose use, just as good as Ubuntu Unity. They're both way up on my list. And Ubuntu Unity now thinks it's steady. It's gotten past the rough edge. I haven't put in good time on it to check because I've been very busy with other things. It's just been a week to play with it. And in addition to that, Rudra was worrying the way I was worrying about building on an Ubuntu that was making some rather extreme changes. So Rudra, on his own, took Ubuntu Lomiri, another flavor, and he put its good features and look into I think he built it on 22.04 long-term release, and then added features, thereby bypassing the obstacle. I know that it's now advertised as still in beta. You can try a temp version, but it's a steady, solid, non-crashing temp version as of a couple of days ago. I've tried it a little bit. I like it, but on my computer, the text came up so tiny that I couldn't figure out where to go to make it larger. And you can try it. Maybe it'll play different on your computer. Maybe with another hour to spare, I'll fiddle till it's right on my computer. But no, it didn't crash. Looks very good. And when he says so, I'm interested. That's why I picked those three to talk about. And we're really having a good time with Linux Mint, which is quite popular out there. I'll answer questions. I can demo later if there's time. But I think you can just click and demo for yourself. I do want to say something here aimed wrong. I'll check with Algot afterward and get it. I think it's the Bobby Borisov art. No, that one goes to mine where I wanted it to go. But at least one of these three is going somewhere else. And later on for Inksy, again, it wants a different link. I'll bring that up later. Any questions for so far? I think we're in good shape. Good.
Thanks, Dick.
Algot is muted. Algot is muted.
The microphone issue does appear to be at my computer, so I am muting more than I normally would. So we'll deal with that as we see what goes on. All right. The next, I hope that the share is still up correctly.
Yes, the share is fine.
Okay. What I want to next deal with then is mentioning that the format of our source code information is potentially going to be a little better than it once was, because the Deb version 822 source format has been released and makes things a little easier for those packaging software. It's really not something that we need to talk about as users, but it is the kind of thing that goes on under the hood, so to speak, and is sometimes described by the programmers of our systems as the plumbing level. So if your interest goes to the plumbing level, you might want to read the article about Deb 822 as a source format. Similarly, those who run servers out on the internet and for business purposes frequently want to have a really solid expectation of what the software is and how it works. And for a long time, there was a product called CentOS that duplicated the parent company of Fedora, whose name is just escaping me. Jerry, you'll remind me, I'm sure.
Hat.
Red Hat, thank you. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a commercial version of Linux software for those who at business level depend on running servers and database hosts and clients for hundreds of servers and hundreds of pieces of equipment through their business. Smaller companies didn't really want to have to pay the level of support that Red Hat Enterprise Linux charged. So CentOS was designed as a version of the enterprise Linux that a smaller company could use, but still count on. And it has reached end of life. CentOS 7 was the one that was last most popular version of this operating system, and it has no more. It does not exist as a supported thing, but there are still a whole bunch of computers out there that use it. And the Linux experiment video that's linked here explains how to deal with that problem if you are a business user. So definitely go take a quick look at that if your interests lie in support of the small business community. And just a last item in this section.
Just before we go to that, I just want to talk a little
yes,
bit
thank you.
on
Thank you.
CentOS. Yeah, CentOS was first done outside of Red Hat and then was bought by Red Hat. And the Rocky Linux, which is an alternative to CentOS, is I'm going to try to have them speak at our May BLU meeting. I just sent out a letter to Brian and Greg. Greg is the guy that actually originally wrote CentOS. So we hope to have them in our next BLU meeting, but I haven't received a confirmation yet.
That will probably become an excellent source of information for the group of people out there who use Linux as a consulting business for the small business community out there. We recommend that you keep track of what's going on because that's your business. Okay. The metaverse. Is that part of the Meta, which used to be, what was its name? I'm losing it.
That would be Facebook.
Facebook, thank you. They change names because it's convenient to them and it confuses me all the time. Metaverse is an attempt to make money off the virtual worlds kind of experience. The heads-up display, the people on the ads that you see with the funny-looking goggles that have no goggle, they're just closed in front of your eyes so that you will experience the world in the same way that a gamer might want, or a person training for downhill skiing, or someone learning how to fly either an airplane or a helicopter. They might use that kind of equipment. It turns out that not many people are spending the kind of money that is necessary to make that a profitable segment of the Meta Facebook company's earnings. They lost money in the last 4 months, 385 billion worth, as reported by them. So those of us using
decimal problem 3.85.
3.85. Thank you. I can't read my own typing. Oh, brother. And that covers our FOSS news for the moment. Explanation of what that acronym stands for. But that's where the software was developed with Tim Berners-Lee leading the effort. And it turns out that that was partially successful because in the 1983 timeframe, World Wide Web software was released to the public. And we live, 1993, I believe, not 83. And we live a much better life in many ways because of that release to the public domain. Very much in the same format as you and I talk about when we say free open source software. If that had been kept proprietary, well, the world would be a different place, I'm sure. Anybody have comments about that? All right.
Hip, hip, hooray. This may be more fundamental to FOSS than the code itself.
Also, privileged to attend a lecture about that time period at MIT by Tim Berners-Lee. It was very interesting. His ideas were not the direction that the web has gone in. Basically, he saw it as a way to link all the scientific communities of various universities and
there was the Web 2.0 concept, followed by the Web 3.0, where everything's an app and very little is accessible web pages that you can manufacture on your own. You really need a totally different outlook on preparing what a web page is for the Web 3.0 concept of everything is an app. Interestingly, I am hearing the bacon sound a little bit, even though my microphone is muted. Bless you, Jill.
I thought our microphone was turned off.
Dix is not. There it is. Now Dix is off. I don't hear the bacon. Anyway, off we go to our agenda and RSS really simple syndication. Turn 25, another history item. It used to be one of the ways that a lot of people kept track of what was happening on the web, because search engines, when this was developed as a protocol, the really simple syndication protocol, didn't have all the sophistication of the modern search engines. And if you wanted to track somebody and find out when they posted something new, the best way to do it was by subscribing to what they're calling a feed that was machine readable. And a lot of people developed feed readers that made it possible to track all the news that you wanted to follow. I'm an RSS user, along with being an RSS producer, meaning my websites have RSS feeds associated with them. And it is still possible to use that, and some people do, but in the modern version of the web, there isn't much commercial support for it. Google once had a feed reader that was very popular, and when they decided it wasn't giving them the chance to control the flow of the news, they turned off the service, and a whole bunch of people said, okay, if Google doesn't offer it, I guess I don't need it. So there we are. Anybody else have a history item that begs to be talked about? Then on we go.
I'm going to have to go look and see what your feeds are saying, but yeah.
They're not spectacular. I have a WordPress site that produces mostly a little poetry, and my occasional clip arts are done that way, so that as a new clip art is published on the site, if you have my RSS hooked up, you will see that. And it is also possible to get a person's Mastodon feed so that you receive an RSS notification when somebody posts something new on on Mastodon. It's a built-in link. So it's there, it's used. It just is kind of hidden in most people's perspective at this point in time. Okay.
I'm afraid so, but you can frequently find one buried on a site so it's worth looking for.
Are you looking for mine?
I don't look, I find.
I didn't get you there, I'm sorry. Okay. There's on my homepage, runeman.org, there's a little icon up at the top that links to a page that describes my feeds. So that's how that's done. Okay, back to the agenda then. Hot software. Bob Primack has an item here about a file indexer in GNOME's software suite. He doesn't think it's a very good piece of software. Bob?
What happened was that there were others who also did not find it to be very nice. And what this has to do with is my hard drives, my backup drives. They keep filling up with, they keep slowing down when I do large transfers was what was happening. And I was just racking my brain as to what could be causing this. And I had a feeling there was something having to do with indexing because of the way the behavior happened, that it would run on and on after a transfer. And there was very high system resource activity. So what I'm going to try to do is bring up a link. Well, the link isn't going to have too much to say because it's a Reddit feed. But it does reference other places in the feed. There are references to other places where you can find out more about what's called Tracker Miner FS. Because people might want to know what this is, I will just briefly do a share. And let me see if I can Chromium tab on file indexer. Okay, there we are. So this is the lead, if you can read it. This is the lead item. And I'm getting feedback. Okay, thank you. I'm going to highlight the line in which it happened. Whoops, try again. There. I pop open let's do that again. There. I pop open the task manager and I see Tracker Miner FS. I saw that in an update and it was being updated. And I was wondering, tracker, could that be something tracking something? Could it be telemetry inside of a Debian-based distro? Actually, this was Ubuntu based, so there was some reason to be concerned. It was not Linux Mint Debian, which is my daily driver. And in Ubuntu Unity, I was wondering, could this component really be a miner, which nowadays a lot of people would say, is this a crypto miner? Turns out it's neither. It's just a rather badly programmed indexer. Windows has an indexer, and Linux has several, and this is one of them. And the larger the drive or partition, the more likely it is. Where's the stop share? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. The larger the drive, the more likely it is that it's going to bog down with this. On smaller drives, smaller transfers, smaller amounts of data, you're not going to find so much of a problem. It depends on the structure of the data as well. So has anyone else noticed a lag when using larger drives or partitions, or when transferring large amounts of data in Ubuntu Unity? Otherwise, I'll just hand it back.
Yeah, I did turn off an indexer that was running hot.
Yeah, and I have tools that show me when the resources are doing that, when the CPU is doing that, and and the disk. One of them I have shown before is called gcrellum, and maybe if I share my desktop, I can show you on the far right hand side. Yeah, it'll be on the far right hand side that you'll see this. Just a brief share. Entire screen, and I think we're able to share that. If you can see this thing on the far right, that shows me that is a number of different panels within one widget, and I can adjust what shows. So I can also multiply it to several different widgets to show different disks, different partitions, etc. Lots of technical detail. So I know what this guy is talking about, what he's seeing, and I know what other people are seeing. It seems to be an Ubuntu thing. It isn't something that happens in Linux Mint.
Bob,
So,
what
yeah.
widget is that?
Excuse me 1 second.
I will add, meanwhile, that Visual Saraswat, Ubuntu Unity, this is one of his concerns, and he's got it under control in his 2 releases, but it was an issue. Had a lot of people hung up, apparently.
Yeah, I see it running on Fedora, but it hasn't caused me any problems yet.
You're not coming through, Bob. Your speaker.
Sorry about the phone call interruption. Let me post in chat what the widget is. And there are people who apparently do not have the issue, and I didn't catch which distros they're using, which distros and desktop environments they're using. This is with GNOME, especially anything that uses GNOME, but it also shows up in Unity. So I will just post in chat what I've got, and we can move forward.
I had something happen in Mint yesterday that really grabbed everything, and I'm trying to remember what I was doing. I think I was transferring a bunch of files to a flash drive or from a flash drive, and I'm wondering if that's a possibility that was the problem.
Well, the one way to find out is switch it off. There are instructions in some articles about doing that. It's pretty complicated to switch it off. That's the other problem with it. That's why I didn't like that. Switching it off and then switching it back on isn't a simple toggle. You can't do it. You have to go into dconf, and it's not easy.
I have a question for Jill on the comment. That is, what were you running? Was it the Linux Mint latest?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen anything like it.
So it may also show up in Mint due to its Ubuntu components. Mint Debian doesn't have those components, and I don't find the problem.
Very intriguing. I'll go back to a share for the agenda. And there it is. Hot software beyond the negative. That hot software is possibly much more positive. Jerry, I'm going to pass the torch to you and probably unshare just so that you can have the chance to tell us about Fedora 40,
Okay.
not 49.
Not 49. Okay,
see.
there you go. Anyway, Fedora 40, what's new in both Fedora 40 and GNOME 46? Again, the release date and the standard workstation version, which I use, does have GNOME 46, a few new features. One is a duplicate IP protection. That's if there are two people using the same IP that you are. That happens occasionally. I've seen it before. wget, which some of us use pretty much, has been updated and improved. It includes multi-threading. It should be very fast. I haven't used it in the last couple months. 6.8 kernel, Yarn. It's, everybody's got the 6.8, except for Debian, which probably is back in 2.0 kernel. Unifies /user bin and /user sbin. Probably nobody non-technical cares about this. I didn't see it, but I do have a later slide on it. And there are 22 spins, including KDE, Plasma 6, and Atomic desktops. I can show the spins a little bit later. Okay. A couple of new features which are nice. A global search feature in the Nautilus file manager. So you can search your entire file system if you want. And a selectable date and time format, which gives you a bigger date and time. An updated system menu, which has users, date and time. I'll show that. And notifications grouped by app and a bunch of miscellaneous updates. This is what the new file manager shows. I have the extended date and time. As you can see in the right, it might be a bit small. And the online accounts that I mentioned, you've got that. And system, this is the new date and time, users, remote desktop. You've all had it, but it's just now in the system sidebar. And now on user sbin, historically, these two directories and bin and the off of root, essentially the difference originally in old Unix, going back, is that the original sbin directories were statically linked files that could run in single user mode before any of the libraries were loaded and stuff like that. Newer versions of Unix and Linux basically kind of changed what sbin meant, and it's mainly used system. But now they're really combined. There's really no technical difference why you can't have stuff in both bin and user sbin. So they should be combined. I've been calling for that for years. Anyhow, that is all I'm going to say about it. I like Fedora 40. I've had no problem. A couple problems that have been reported. My son-in-law tried to install the KDE spin, and the KDE spin was not successful. And I think I'm going to share the spins for you. They're the spins that we have. As you see, KDE, there's LXDE, Mate, Python Classroom Lab for Algot. So all these different spins. Some of these are pretty standard, the XFCE and LXQT and those things. So we'll go back. Again, I use just a standard GNOME spin. It's not a spin, it's a standard desktop. I've been using it for years. And I personally prefer it. One of the things that used to happen when I used to upgrade, my favorites would kind of disappear because they weren't always updated. My favorites bar, whatever it's called on top. This one came back very quickly. So I think a lot of developers of those updated the dates on them. Anyway, that's all I've got. Any questions, I'll answer them.
Looks like everybody's happy with your presentation as you made it. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, another share from me, I guess, for the, did the wrong button there.
You're sharing your mail.
Oh, sorry about that. Click the wrong choice there. Window, Firefox, share. Much, much better, I hope. Okay, we have hot software. Again, looking at a piece of software that Dick is going to tell us about. Inchi? How do you pronounce that?
Any way you like. I think Inksy, sort of like ink in a pen. C, yes, that's what I said. Inksy.
So it's not Inchi?
It's depending on what country you're coming from, a lot of different things. But let me get to it. First of all, where am I? These are the places. First thing I want to do is make a little room on my screen. And actually, yes, look down at the bottom of my screen.
I can't see it.
You need to share, Dick.
Oh, I thought, just a minute. This is interesting. I clicked on allow.
And they want you to select a window.
And at least for the moment,
Click on
the
this.
bacon sizzle went away.
That was me turning off my mic.
Oh, good. I've been quite puzzled between, I thought it could be us and more clues coming. Okay, now you should be seeing my screen as I'm seeing my screen.
Yes.
I, like you, used to have a left sidebar and a top bar. My Firefox currently has a top bar, but I'll take it away in a bit. And I have the view out our bedroom window behind me getting faked. And on the bottom, you may not know it, but I have 3 bars, all in one. The center one is running system load indicator. I'm tracking my CPU in red with a trim of white. It's red, white, blue, and green for the 4 virtual cores in my i7 CPU. It's running one of them heavy and one of them not too heavy. I'm looking at my memory usage, dark green at the bottom, a little bit of occupied of the 16 gigabytes of RAM. And the light green says almost all the rest of it is full of cache RAM. The cache RAM is not in use, but it'll come back that much faster if I have a reason to go back to that item. As soon as it hits the top, anytime I need more RAM, it'll chew some out of the oldest cache RAM. Very couth. Burning 2 candles at once, 1 candle at both ends, I guess. Third one is my internet activity, and it only has 2 colors, and the 2 colors are red and white for read and write. That's my great breakthrough in science. I can remember it. And the same goes for the items that are actually getting processed and showing up. They all say the same thing unless I click them. And if I click on one, I get a little more information. And this is a quick report on some of those numbers you're seeing as heights on the graphs as time goes by. So that's very useful. Be good for debugging, good for trying out a new piece of equipment, seeing at what point it gets too noisy, whatever.
Good for figuring out why your computer is suddenly running slow when you're
right. And I can't resist. This one is telling me I have a program in there. Yes, go. Let's say pause on current. And how do I get to it? Just a minute. I think I can do this. But I could be wrong. In this current multi-combined mode, I thought I could get to it easily. Not urgent, but I have changing wallpapers. They pick randomly from a big set, maybe 500 or 1,000. I have several sets. And it's showing you which one is currently in it. When I said to pause it, I'll say it can go back to resuming regular changes. But we're only seeing its action as it does it, as an occasional little burst in this window. Not that one as I switch back, but those tall ones that last a moment. That's the Windows change. When it settles down, they'll be showing once every 10 seconds my current pause setting for it. Recommend that too. In any case, that's one. Down at the bottom, on the left, I have most of my normal apps showing at the moment, and things like a file manager. This one brings me in or out of this particular section up here, and I can use it to shut down, for example, or to see what I have available, or to see everything all at once. I can type, it's already live, to look for something. For instance, that program that was running the slideshow, Variety. And it says, I've already got it. I could type it in if I don't have it. And Linux Mint knows how to deliver it to me with my current sites that have good data on tap. It'll go get it for me if I say, do it. So very nice user interfaces on Linux Mint. I've got all the normal stuff like Firefox, my Photox, Thunderbird. This one I might want to talk about next week, next month. Foliate is my favorite way to read a book now. another day, another time. But they're all up here. That's all my apps that I want, and I can ask for more quickly. On the right, I have all the critical ingredients for where am I and when is it and how soon does my battery go dead. Things like that. It says it's charging right now. Didn't need it, but she'll thought it'd be a good idea anyway. Might be. And so on and so forth. So this is a quick intro that I didn't do earlier. Now, I would like to go into my terminal window. Let's see if I can do it the normal way. Yes. And I'll full screen it for, no, I won't. I'll leave that up too so we can see everything happening at once. I want to talk about a wonderful free open source software program that runs in your terminal window. And it's called INXI, I-N-X-I. Now, Algot currently for this agenda has a link to it, which is a third-party description of it from, I think, about 4 years ago. And I think it's an excellent description, except it's not complete. When you look at it, you'll think it's got to be complete, but no, there's more. And in addition, it makes one mistake. It tells you that you can use INXI to look at, to look at, get that out of the way at least. And I do want to share, I guess. INXI is able to look into your computer and tell you more than you're used to seeing, down here and the like, about what's inside and what it's doing right now. Or it can go on the internet and go out to the remote computers you work with and check them out too. You're going to need the computer's password, thank goodness. But other than that, you can do it to any computer. If you have a client and they give you their current or a fake password temporarily in use, you can go on, do this, figure out what to do, and tell them. It's an awfully nice tool. Let's try it for size. First, I'll just say INXI.
Hit enter.
I hope it's running.
Oh, it's not highlighted.
There we go. Garbage in, garbage out. You don't get a whole lot. What's he talking about? It's supposed to be a lot. Let's try another trick. Dash capital F added to it makes it a little more interesting. Still looking at my computer, but we're seeing a lot more about it than we were before. And for instance, one of the things I like most about my computer, for me, working with Photox, is that I have an extra high resolution screen. Doesn't matter while I'm making something with Photox. It matters while I'm catching a screen image, I get more data. And then I have that to work with Photox if I want to rework it.
I mean, with print screen?
I can do a print screen, and I get 2560 by 1440, not the usual 1920 by 1080. That can be very valuable, particularly if I'm working with a part of an image. So I value that a lot. Well, I don't see any clue about it up here, but down here, I still don't see any clue about it until I go down in graphics here and read just a little bit further. And what do you know? Somewhere down here.
You went well past it.
I passed it?
Yeah, it's up here.
There we go. There's my super screen resolution showing I can test another person's, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty powerful. But not compared, for instance, What is it doing here? Is that a random thing that crawled in? Or is it from somewhere else?
I don't know. Random.
I don't believe it. What?
Maybe it's in your.
I'll try typing and see if it works. Oh, it's not random.
It would appear that Dick has departed. Jill, you can still hear us. So we hope he'll come back to continue his explanation of this cool program, which I took a look at in anticipation of this afternoon. I'm hoping Dick will show us what the remote option is, because it sounded from the article that it only worked with Internet Relay Chat, IRC, and I'm not sure that's valuable.
Dick
We'll be back as
clicked
soon-
on something and he's out of Jitsi, so he'll be back in a minute.
Thank you, Jill. I guess he's going to be a few moments resolving the issues. So in the meantime, one of the things that struck me as useful about that program, the INCSI program, is there. We may be coming back. Hold on.
I have no idea. Whoops. Where's mine? Okay. I have no idea what hit,
You need to share again.
but
Select the screen with that down arrow.
we're not.
Entire screen.
Where are you?
Entire screen.
Thank you.
Allow.
I think we're almost there. According to me, I should now be hearable and seeable. Anybody agree? Good. Okay. And I have no idea what I touched by accident, but it was very impressive. At least I was impressed. Let's see. This can go now, right? I don't,
I don't
Interesting.
understand why you have a second one.
probably has something to do with the first one. I really don't want to try to close it in a wrong way. Let me see if I can instead go back to the screen sharing, which I thought I was on.
Which you just turned off, apparently.
How? What did I do? Incredible.
Go back to
Screen share.
see Alt Tab and
Here,
see if
you
you've
try
got
something.
something open.
Faster than talking to me about it. Allow. Okay.
What? Why does that keep coming up?
Let's not do live screen. Let's do active window. I bet that'll solve a lot.
Oh, it seems to be working now.
I hear a rumor that this is working and you can see me. People believe that?
I can see you.
Good. Okay.
Yep, seeing here.
There's a combination here that is not good. Let me simplify somewhat. That might be helpful. Okay. Now screen share again.
No, you don't want. No,
Nope.
you're
I
screen
don't?
sharing.
Nope. You're already doing it.
Now you just turned it off.
Well, why the hell aren't I seeing it?
Oh, okay. It says you're sharing your entire screen up here. Well, why aren't we seeing it? I'm going to say stop sharing and start it again.
Good. And share the window. Hear me?
Which one? Jitsi Meet?
Uh,
No, because you want to be able to go to.
I guess that one. Look good?
No, that's just the terminal window.
That's what I wanted, isn't it?
Okay.
Maybe we wound it back around to where I want it. We have,
Well, we see sensors.
you're seeing it, right?
Yep.
Good. I am puzzled over what combination did that. It was not my finger, it was something else. In any case, that was INCSI and INCSI space dash capital F. Now I'm going to do whoops. Now I'm going to do this is not the tomato juice. It's a lowercase v.
It's not tomato juice and it's not a big engine in a car.
Now, this is where we began up here, plain INCSI. This was INCSI-F, which got us down to sort of like here.
You're not going down here.
My fault. And here's way up here, all this space compared to the others. It's a much bigger report. Is it the biggest? No. Can you get more details on just the one thing you're tracking? Yes. These are 3 examples of perhaps a few thousand combinations you can whip up quickly. Amazing.
And
But I find these 3 are all you need until you decide you want to do something for regular reuse.
And notice that some things say super user required, so you just have to say sudo INCSI-V8.
I'm not
whatever.
looking at one at the moment,
Yeah, it
but
was right in the middle.
here they're warning you. Here they're saying unsupported, conditional. There's a lot of comments, a lot of ways to learn how to read them better. No logical block device data found. Check INCSI -- recommends in lowercase. They're going to tell you more about this one, etc., etc. This is a very powerful tool. I recommend, and I'll tell Algot after the meeting to put it up there, the actual documentation for it. And at any time in it, you can just say, good old, to see its manual online, that's built in. And you'll see a few of these in there and quite a bit more. Here comes the good part, standard options. Everything you could want, you can go straight for it to the heart. Capitals and lowercase are quite different from each other in many instances. So just say man INCSI while you're running it, and you'll get a hell of a lot of clues. And I'll ask for the, whoops, we're almost there. I'll ask for this capital -F1 to be added to the 2 I already have in the agenda, and to underline each one of them so you can see where it begins and ends. But it's just an immense collection. And you have some here, you have a lot more information, examples, user group help, official help, everything in the middle if you go to its own documentation. And by the way, the rest of that fellow's documentation is at least as good for other things on his site. Not a topic for today, but when you have some time, take a look. And I'm going to leave on the one that Algot has at the moment because it's a very good, easy read intro to all of this. But be warned, it's not totally up to date. It's not totally complete, not the official place to go. And it has wonderful things to tell you about going online with it and asking for the weather anywhere, easily, which is exactly what you'd want to do if you're supporting someone, say a 14-year-old in India. You could see what he's set to at the moment and what difference it makes and who cares. But if you do it for the weather, it's to see if perhaps he's just had some lightning go through a little while ago and you'd like to know about that. Or the temperature is extremely high. Is he in an air-conditioned area or not? Or whatever. The catch to this, listen close, don't set it to run automatically for weather. If you do, you'll probably get barred from using it. Why? It's designed when you're troubleshooting a given site, not for general information. It clogs up the site when too many people use it on a regular basis. If you don't have to type it in at the sitting to ask for the weather, it's on automatic and pretty soon you'll be in trouble. So don't make it automatic. Don't type it into a routine you want to use regularly. Type it in by hand when and if you want to know the weather anywhere. And on the home page, you'll see full explanations of all of that. That had me very worried about the link that's in there now. But given that warning, the official documentation is real, and that one is a real good intro for beginners, provided you know not to automate your use of its weather capability. I don't know any other booby traps, but it's got a close to infinite number of combinations, so maybe you'll find them before I do. But it's just lovely and totally reliable at the level I've been finding it very helpful. A great addition to my system load indicator and information down in the bottom bar as I have it now showing in Linux Mint. That's all I have to say about it, unless you want, one more thing. Linux Mint has it already aboard. Most Debian derivatives, including all the Ubuntu ones, have it at least in a repository where you can get it quickly enough. And there are some versions, not many, of Linux where they don't even know how to find it in the repositories they use. You can go to where I recommended for the documentation and download from there, if you like. I don't think many people will need that. I will now stop sharing. And are there any questions?
I have one, Dick.
Yep.
What is the way you use it to look at a distant computer? Is it internet relay chat related? IRC? That's what it's described in the manual.
Yeah, you can just tell it where you want to go with proper ID and maybe with a password. You're going to get more with a password, but you'll get what you ought to get without it if you don't need it. And I have not been using it remote. I feel I'm not quite agile enough with it. And in combo with this today, I was getting a few surprises. So I want to get really good at the parts I want to use remote before I inflict it on somebody instead of giving them the benefit of it. But try it on your own computer until you know what you want to do. and then just read the part about going remote. I found this information very good. Its power strikes me as potentially incredibly useful. Not the only tool out there, but I think probably the best of the free open source ones. This one I think is not offered anywhere except on Linux. Oh, and a few things like it, BSD, GNU, for the real purists, but basically a Linux-like system. There are plenty of things like it for Windows and Apple, but I think unless you load Linux on one of those, you don't load Inksy. Any other questions? Good, I'm back, I'm off.
Thank you very much, Dick. Very thorough presentation, and I'm looking forward to my chance to explore it far further than I did earlier today. And I'll check on your new link to add to the one that we have already. Okay, I'll share again. And Firefox. So we are now to the end of the hot software. Sounds like we have a lot to look through with what we heard about. The hot hardware is not a particularly exciting thing for the normal user because you have to build the system yourself. This article about network attached storage allows you to do so with a couple of hard drives and a Raspberry Pi, making it a relatively inexpensive proposition to set up. The directions that are in the link tell us about a 3D printed case as well. This is part of the Autodesk Instructables area of the web. It's a great source of project information for those people who want to try doing something on their own, but not without instructions. Instructables is a thing for all sorts of different kinds of instructions or projects, not just electronic ones. But as you can see in this particular window on the right-hand side here, the innards contain a couple of hard drives here, and then in the lower section of the box is the little computer itself, the Raspberry Pi, but then the case smoothly designed with a support allowing you to enjoy the experience of having networked attached storage, which actually is a pretty good deal if you have several computers that you want to enable backups for without having to carry a portable hard drive around. You attach this box or one similar to it to your network in your house, assuming you have more than one computer and a little bit of technical knowledge. Your router in your house has Ethernet cabling as an option for connections, and you plug this kind of box, the network attached storage box, to your Ethernet, and then all of the devices in your house can make backups to this central location, which is a kind of thing that businesses do on a much, much larger scale, but getting away with it on a DIY basis is a pretty good deal. Okay. Question?
Yes. So let me get this straight. This is basically your own private little cloud?
More or less, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Wrong place. The hardware part of it is, as I said, a DIY project, but you can purchase this kind of equipment. There is a brand known as Synology that does an equivalent job, and it runs software in a variety of options beyond just being a backup. So you might want to look into Synology, Synology, I believe is the way it's spelled. I'll check that out in a moment and put the note, when possible, into the chat for people to follow. All right, hot internet. The hot part of this is that TikTok is hugely popular with those people who like to watch short video loops as opposed to long explanations or movies or other streaming options. TikTok has become extremely popular with people who want to show off how they can dance, or how they are cuter than everybody else, or the costume that they made for their Halloween activities. The loops.video is a federated version of the same thing. And by federated, I mean that it's related to Mastodon using the same ActivityPub interconnection protocol, so that you're not tied to the TikTok platform. And the reason maybe you don't want to be tied to the TikTok platform is that it's Chinese as far as its origins, and a good deal of your information is being passed over to China. And some people are not happy about that, to the point that the US government is considering canceling TikTok's ticket, making it illegal for people in the United States to use it, which I'm sure will make a whole bunch of short video people very, very uncomfortable. Therefore, if you're intrigued by the idea, you might want to look to find out more about loops.video. Unfortunately, following the link, you will see available soon. That's because they're still in the alpha stage of development. But given that and the government-related climate, we'll see whether that becomes a necessity for something to take over the features of TikTok to keep a bunch of people happy. All right, security. Some of you may know of Glyn Moody, a technology person who has a good sense of the bad side of the internet and what it means to have proprietary things take over when you don't really expect that they should be taken over. He has a good piece here on AI abuse of copyright law. And I really strongly recommend that if you're interested in that, you read both his immediate take in this particular link, or you go to the larger work of the book, Walled Culture, as a free PDF download. You don't have to pay him any money or anybody else. He is very much a free information advocate. And finally, we're getting a chance to come to a close a little early today. The arcade game cabinet is a link to a Mastodon comment about the Raspberry Pi plus Picade making up a machine that looks almost exactly like Dennis's that we had at the Science on State Street presentation. I'm sure it's not quite as pretty because his is marvelous. His father did a great job of designing and building the cabinetry. But as you can see, this one looks similar. It is run as noted by Raspberry Pi 4. I'll repeat that then. For those who are watching this later, I'm asking to find if we have any comments about the arcade game or Raspberry Pi or any of the other items that we have not covered today.
So I was actually contacted by a group called 2-Bit Circus. They are actually also creating an arcade cabinet, but they're specifically going over and putting the instructions online. The idea being that anyone can go over and make one of these, and they want to add a payment system to it so that you can go over and put it into a store and just collect some money from it.
Did you
You got muted, Algot.
Did you get the chance to answer them and give away your free design?
I gave them information about what games I have that I've got up and running on my arcade machine. It looks like they were doing less buttons, so some of the games may not work as well. And I did play around with, I talked with them about what they're envisioning for the payment system. And they are not planning on adding hardware for it. So there will be no coin slot. Instead, what it'll be is there'll be a QR code. You scan that with your smartphone. On the website, you'll be able to enter in your credit card information or whatever to do the payment, which I think is a very clever idea. It hadn't occurred to me. I just focused on the idea of, well, you got to put in a coin slot.
Well, everything's app related these days. Nothing is cash, and I'm not sure we'll even have coins in a future ahead of us.
Yes, I agree. And so I think that's the smart way to go, although it does lead to the situation of I don't have a smartphone, so I'm not going to be able to use it that way. But I will say the picture you have from this link, I did look at it and thought, well, it only has one controller. I want a 2-player game.
I suspect this was just, again, another person's DIY project that was done at a makerspace in this case. And it's nice to see that there are people sharing their ideas that way. I would think if you got the chance to describe your process, it would be a great thing to maybe set up an instructable to show how you built yours. Whether or not a Raspberry Pi is involved doesn't matter at all. Okay. Anybody have additional information that we want to add into today's work, or are we going to have a good chance to take a moment outside where it's 74 degrees? Not quite so sunny as it was earlier. It sounds as if we are close to that point then. I wish to say I thank everyone who participated in today's meeting. We are NatickFOSS, Western Metro West Boston area for our location. If you are able to come and visit with any of us, we would love to share our expertise and or our chance to question you on yours. So thanks for all the participants. And if you're watching us on YouTube later, thanks again to Dennis for making that possible.
Fare thee well. May the foss be with you.
See you all next month.
Bye all then.
Yeah, I just one little comment that's not really part of the meeting. I saw a truck on the highway. I was following it. And instead of the company name on the back, all I could read was there was this giant QR code.